Before the megaliths, before the great temples, we must look back to the darkest, coldest depths of the Ice Age. 23,000 years ago, the Earth was enduring the last glacial maximum. It was the harshest climate our species had ever faced. For centuries, modern science assumed that human beings during this time were desperate, starving nomads, constantly on the brink of extinction, wandering endlessly in search of a meal. But beneath the waters of the Sea of Galilee, a submerged archaeological site proved this completely wrong. Ohalo II. Preserved perfectly under the mud and water for over 20 millennia, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a prehistoric camp. But this was not a temporary shelter. The people of Ohalo II built 6 sturdy, bowl-shaped huts out of thick brush and woven branches. Inside these huts, they laid down the oldest known bedding in human history, carefully arranging layers of soft grass to sleep on. They were not starving, they were thriving. Around their ancient hearths, scientists found the remains of over 140 different species of wild plants, fruits, and seeds. They were fishing in the lake, they were hunting gazelle, and they were staying put. 23,000 years ago, long before the invention of farming, these ancient people figured out how to live in one place year-round. As the centuries passed, this desire to gather, to form a permanent community, only grew stronger. Deep in the eastern desert of modern-day Jordan lies a barren, scorched landscape known as the Azraq Basin. Today, it is a wasteland of cracked mud and sand. But 20,000 years ago, it was a lush, vibrant wetland teeming with life. Here, ancient hunter-gatherers established Kharane IV. Kharane IV was not a small camp. It was a massive, sprawling aggregation site covering over 20,000 square meters. It was a prehistoric metropolis. For over 1,000 years, different bands of nomadic families traveled from hundreds of miles away to gather at this exact spot. They built semi-permanent huts with floors of packed earth. They traded marine shells brought all the way from the Mediterranean Sea, and they hunted gazelle by the thousands. The sheer volume of animal bones and flint tools found at Kharane IV is staggering. It proves that human beings were drawn to each other. They wanted to trade. They wanted to share stories. They wanted to live together in massive numbers. This gradual shift in the human mind, this deep desire to put down roots, finally culminated in the Levant around 15,000 years ago. The emergence of the Natufian culture. The Natufians were the true bridge between the wandering nomad and the settled world. They built the first real villages. They constructed round houses with foundations made of heavy, stacked stones. And to process their food, they carved massive, heavy stone mortars and pestles, tools so heavy they could not be carried. Once a Natufian carved a mortar, they were bound to that location. In the Black Desert of northeastern Jordan, at a Natufian site known as Shubaika I, archaeologists found an ancient stone fireplace. Inside the hearth, burned and carbonized, were the microscopic remains of flat bread. It was baked 14,400 years ago, 4,000 years before the invention of agriculture. Humanity did not invent bread because they learned to farm. They learned to farm because they wanted to make more bread. The Natufians changed everything. They buried their dead with elaborate care. In one grave, an elderly woman was laid to rest, surrounded by the shells of 80 tortoises, the wing of a golden eagle, and the pelvis of a leopard. She was a shaman, a spiritual leader in a world that was rapidly waking up. In another Natufian grave, a human was buried with their hand resting gently on a puppy. the first recorded bond between man and dog. The brush huts of Ohalo II, the massive gatherings at Archeology IV, and the stone villages of the Natufians. These were the silent steps leading up to the Great Leap. Without these early pioneers learning to sit by the same fire year after year, the massive carved pillars of Göbekli Tepe would never have been raised.
For over 2 million years, the Earth was locked in the grip of the Pleistocene Ice Age. Massive glaciers, miles thick, covered much of the northern hemisphere. Humanity did not build, they did not settle, they survived. Low bands of nomadic hunter-gatherers followed the great herds of megafauna across frozen landscapes. They crossed land bridges that no longer exist, driving the peopling of the Americas, moving step by step through a hostile, frozen world. But roughly 12,000 years ago, the climate shifted violently. The Younger Dryas, a period of abrupt and extreme cooling, finally released its hold on the planet. Temperatures rose, the ice retreated, and sea levels swallowed the ancient coastlines. In the wake of the melting ice, a new world emerged. And in the region we now call the Fertile Crescent, something unprecedented began to happen. History textbooks have long told a simple story. They claim that humanity first learned to farm, then built permanent settlements, and only then developed the capacity for complex religion and monumental architecture. But the earth beneath southeastern Turkey tells a completely different story. Deep in the Anatolian region lies Göbekli Tepe. Constructed over 11,600 years ago, it predates Stonehenge by more than 6 millennia. It predates the Great Pyramid of Giza by 7,000 years. Göbekli Tepe was not a farming village. It was a ceremonial center, built entirely by hunter-gatherers. To construct this site, ancient people quarried massive limestone pillars. These T-shaped megaliths, some towering over 16 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons, were carved with nothing but stone tools. The pillars are not bare stone. They are intricately carved with high-relief sculptures of local fauna. Lions, foxes, wild boars, vultures, and scorpions wrap around the ancient megaliths. These were not just decorations, they were symbols, a complex prehistoric language of myth and memory. The construction of Göbekli Tepe required hundreds of people to gather, coordinate, and work together for decades. They had to be fed, they had to be organized. This suggests that the desire to build monuments, the urge to gather for sacred rituals, is what actually drove humanity to invent agriculture. They needed a reliable food source to support the builders of the temple. Religion, it seems, sparked the agricultural revolution, not the other way around. And Göbekli Tepe does not stand alone. Just 28 miles away lies Karahan Tepe. Karahan Tepe is a sister site, perhaps even older than Göbekli Tepe. Here, the bedrock itself was carved into massive circular chambers. In one of these chambers, an enigmatic scene is carved directly into the stone. A human head emerges from the rock, watching over a corridor lined with tall, phallic pillars shaped like serpents. The Urfa man, the oldest known life-sized statue of a human being ever discovered, was found in this exact same region, dating to the exact same era. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, with obsidian eyes staring blankly forward, he represents a profound shift in the human mind. For the first time, humanity was not just observing the world, they were attempting to master it. But perhaps the greatest mystery of these Anatolian sites is not how they were built, but how they were abandoned. After centuries of continuous use, the builders of Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe did something inexplicable. They did not simply walk away, they meticulously and purposefully buried the entire complex. Thousands of tons of dirt, stone, and animal bones were hauled in to fill the circular enclosures. They entombed their own monuments, preserving them perfectly beneath the earth for over 10,000 years. We do not know why. As the centuries passed, the nomadic builders began to settle. By 7100 BC, a massive proto-city had emerged on the Anatolian plain, Çatalhöyük. Çatalhöyük is a marvel of the Neolithic world. It was a densely packed settlement, home to an estimated 8,000 people. But there were no streets, there were no pathways. The houses were built completely flush against one another, like a giant honeycomb made of mud brick. To navigate the city, the inhabitants walked across the flat roofs and climbed down wooden ladders through square holes in the ceiling to enter their homes. Inside these windowless rooms, they lived their entire lives. They plastered their walls in brilliant white and painted vivid murals of hunting scenes, massive aurochs, and geometric patterns. And they lived side by side with the dead. When a family member passed away, they were buried beneath the sleeping platforms inside the home. The living literally slept on top of their ancestors. Further south in the Levant, other settlements were exploring similar rituals. At the ancient site of Ain Ghazal, archaeologists discovered caches of bizarre, haunting statues. Molded from lime plaster and built around cores of bundled reeds, these figures stand with disproportionately large heads and wide staring eyes outlined in bitumen. They were carefully arranged and then ceremonially buried, much like the great temples of the north. This was the dawn of human civilization, a time of megaliths, of ancestors sleeping beneath the floorboards, and of immense stone pillars buried in the dark. A civilization that thrived long before the first word was ever written down.
While the early settlements of Anatolia shaped the concept of the city, a different kind of architectural revolution was quietly unfolding across the sea. Long before the pharaohs united the Nile, long before the first hieroglyphs were carved into temple walls, the deep Sahara was not a barren desert. It was a vast green savanna. And here, in southern Egypt, nomadic cattle herders built one of the most enigmatic sites in the ancient world, Nabta Playa. Over 7,000 years ago, these ancient people arranged massive stone slabs in complex circular alignments. It is the oldest known astronomical observatory on Earth, predating Stonehenge by over 2,000 years. The stones of Nabta Playa were not placed at random. They were precisely calibrated to track the summer solstice, marking the arrival of the crucial monsoon rains that brought life to the savanna. Beneath the sands, archaeologists found massive bedrock sculptures resembling cattle, buried in deep, intentionally sealed pits. These nomadic stargazers were the true ancestors of the Egyptian civilization, reading the heavens long before the Great Pyramid was ever conceived. But the urge to build with massive stones, to erect megaliths that would stand the test of time, was not confined to North Africa. It spread across the Mediterranean, taking root on a small, isolated archipelago, the island of Malta. Here,
Beginning around 5600 BC, an isolated society began constructing the oldest freestanding stone buildings on the planet, the temples of Gigantia. Local folklore claims these structures were built by giants. Looking at the sheer scale of the limestone blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, it is easy to understand why. The builders had no metal tools, they had no wheels. Yet they quarried, moved, and fitted these massive megaliths into complex clover-shaped floor plans, aligning the massive doorways perfectly with the rising sun of the equinox. But the most haunting achievement of the Maltese builders was not built reaching toward the sky. It was carved deep into the earth. The Halsaflieni Hypogeum, a subterranean necropolis carved entirely out of solid limestone using only tools made of flint and obsidian. Descending 3 levels deep into the absolute darkness of the bedrock, the Hypogeum is a labyrinth of interconnected chambers, halls, and false doors. The acoustic properties of this underground temple are terrifyingly precise. In one specific chamber, known as the Oracle Room, a male voice speaking at a low frequency will resonate throughout the entire subterranean complex, echoing in the bones of anyone standing in the darkness. It was a place of ritual, a place of initiation, and ultimately a place of death. The remains of over 7,000 individuals were found interred within its walls, a civilization sleeping together in the dark, their voices echoing through the limestone for eternity. As the temple builders of Malta vanished, a different expression of megalithic power was taking shape on the western edge of Europe. In the Brittany region of northern France lies Karnak. There is no temple here, there is no roof. Instead, there are stones. Over 3,000 massive standing stones erected around 4,500 BC. They do not form a single circle. They form precise parallel lines that stretch across the French country for miles. Some of these granite monoliths weigh over 400 tons. They stand like a silent, petrified army marching toward the horizon. The exact purpose of the Karnak alignments remains one of the greatest mysteries of prehistory. Some scholars suggest they served as a massive earthquake detector. Others argue they are a lunar observatory or a sacred pathway for the dead. Whatever their purpose, the sheer physical exertion required to drag 3,000 boulders across the landscape implies a society organized by an iron will. Further south, on the Iberian Peninsula, the builders of ancient Spain took the megalithic urge to its absolute physical limit. In the region of Andalusia stands the Menga dolmen. Constructed nearly 6,000 years ago, Menga is a massive subterranean burial chamber. But what sets it apart is the roof. The single capstone that covers the back of the chamber weighs an astonishing 150 tons. It is the largest stone ever moved in Neolithic Europe. Unlike almost every other ancient tomb in the region, which face the rising sun, Menga points directly at a distant human-shaped mountain known as the Lover's Rock. The builders aligned their masterpiece not with the heavens, but with the earth itself. From the sands of Egypt to the underground labyrinths of Malta, to the endless stone rows of France and the massive tombs of Spain, humanity was writing its legacy in stone.
Far from the megaliths of Europe and the buried temples of Anatolia, a completely different human story was unfolding in absolute isolation.
At the height of the last ice age, the oceans retreated. Vast amounts of the Earth's water were locked in continental ice sheets, dropping global sea levels by over 400 feet. Where the freezing waters of the Bering Strait now flow, a massive bridge of dry land emerged from the deep. Beringia. A frozen, wind-swept steppe stretching hundreds of miles wide, connecting the edge of Siberia to the untamed wilderness of North America. For generations, small bands of nomadic hunters followed the great herds across this bitter expanse. They were entering a world completely untouched by human hands, a world dominated by giants. They walked alongside prehistoric megafauna that seem like myths today. The Columbian mammoth, towering 14 feet at the shoulder. The giant ground sloth, weighing over 4 tons, capable of pulling down the branches of ancient trees. And stalking in the shadows, the short-faced bear, an apex predator so massive it could look a man in the eye while standing on all fours, hunting alongside packs of dire wolves and the deadly saber-toothed smilodon. For decades, modern science believed these hunters arrived roughly 13,000 years ago, marching southward into the continent through a narrow corridor of melting ice. They were known as the Clovis people, named for the deadly fluted stone spear points they left behind in the dirt. But the Earth holds older memories. In the alkali flats of New Mexico, at a place called White Sands, the wind eroded the soil to reveal a stunning prehistoric secret. Human footprints. Not just 1 or 2, but an entire trackway. The footprints of young adults walking with purpose, striding directly alongside the massive, deep impressions of a giant ground sloth. The dating of these tracks shocked the archaeological world. 23,000 years ago, 10,000 years before the Clovis people, 10,000 years before the massive ice-free corridor even opened, humans were already thriving deep in the Americas. How did they get there when a mile-thick wall of ice blocked the entire northern continent? The answer lies in the ocean. They did not walk over the land, they followed the water. The Kelp Highway. Ancient maritime explorers navigating small skin-covered boats along the icy Pacific coastline. They moved from bay to bay, surviving on the rich, unbroken ecosystem of the dense kelp forests that hugged the shoreline from Japan to the Americas. These towering underwater forests acted as a natural breakwater against the crushing Pacific waves, providing a safe, calm corridor teeming with seals, sea otters, and abalone. They pushed southward, down the jagged coast of North America, past the sprawling deserts of the south, all the way down to the very tip of Tierra del Fuego. These early Americans left behind no written records. They built no massive stone pyramids and carved no towering pillars. Their legacy is quieter. Scattered stone tools, charred hearths deep within ancient sea caves, and the footprints of young adults baked permanently into the mud. These silent migrations, the steady, relentless march of humanity across the ice and the sea, completed the peopling of the globe. A quiet testament to human endurance in the darkest, coldest epochs of our history. As the great ice sheets melted, the oceans continued to rise. Global sea levels climbed by nearly 400 feet over a few millennia. And as the water rose, entire landscapes of habitable land vanished beneath the waves. Between the eastern coast of Britain and the shores of mainland Europe, there was once a vast, thriving wilderness, Doggerland. For thousands of years, this was the heart of the European hunter-gatherer world. It was a fertile paradise of rolling hills, dense forests, and winding river deltas. Ancient humans hunted red deer and wild boar in its woodlands and built intricate fish traps in its shallow marshes. But the sea was relentless. Inch by inch, generation by generation, the water crept inland, turning valleys into salt marshes and hills into isolated islands. Then, around 8,200 years ago, a final catastrophic blow was struck: the Storegga Slide. Deep beneath the ocean, off the coast of Norway, a massive section of the continental shelf collapsed. This underwater landslide triggered a devastating tsunami. A towering wall of water swept across the remnants of Doggerland, swallowing the remaining landmass entirely and erasing an ancient culture from the face of the earth. Today, deep beneath the cold, gray waters of the North Sea, the petrified forests of Doggerland still stand in the dark. And modern fishermen dredging the ocean floor occasionally pull up the bones of mammoths and the intricately carved bone harpoons of the people who once walked there. Halfway across the globe, another massive continent met the exact same fate: Sundaland. During the Ice Age, Southeast Asia did not look like a scattered archipelago. It was a colossal, unbroken peninsula connecting modern-day Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia into a single landmass, twice the size of India. It was covered in dense equatorial rainforests and cut by massive river systems. It was a cradle of early human migration, a superhighway for ancient people expanding out of Africa and pushing toward Australia. But as the ice melted, the sea inundated the lowlands. The great valleys of Sundaland were flooded, turning the highest mountain peaks into the isolated islands we know today as Java, Sumatra, and Borneo. The people of Sundaland were forced to adapt. As the land vanished beneath their feet, they took to the water. They became the first great mariners, developing outrigger canoes and deep-sea navigation, eventually pushing out into the vast, uncharted Pacific Ocean. These drowned worlds serve as a haunting reminder. Our earliest memories as a species, the origins of our deepest myths of great floods and lost lands, are buried not just under dirt, but beneath thousands of feet of crushing ocean water. As the climate stabilized and the coastlines settled into the shapes we recognize today, humanity faced a new reality. Populations were growing, resources were fiercely guarded, and in the harsh, sun-baked landscape of the Levant, people began to build something entirely new: defenses. Near the salty shores of the Dead Sea, fed by a perennial spring, lies the oasis of Jericho. Over 10,000 years ago, before the invention of pottery, before humans had even learned to smelt copper, the people of Jericho constructed a massive stone wall around their settlement. It was a staggering undertaking for a prehistoric society. But even more astonishing is what they built just inside that wall: the Tower of Jericho. Standing 28 feet tall and 28 feet wide at its base, it is a solid cone of undressed stone. Hidden deep within its core, the builders engineered a steep and closed staircase made of 22 massive stone slabs leading to the top. It is the oldest known monumental stone building on Earth. Why did a Stone Age society need a towering fortress? Some archaeologists argue it was a watchtower, built to defend their precious water source from rival tribes. Others believe it was an ancient flood defense designed to protect the town from devastating mudslides roaring down from the nearby mountains. Or perhaps it was a symbol of pure intimidation, a monument of fear. Whatever its purpose, the Tower of Jericho marked a dark turning point in the human story. The open, roaming world of the hunter-gatherer was closing. Humanity was putting up walls. We were settling down. We were hoarding resources. And we were preparing for war. As humanity learned to harvest the earth, the size of their settlements exploded. But the path to modern civilization was not a straight line. There were sprawling proto-cities that rivaled the scale of anything in the ancient world. Yet they vanished, leaving behind no kings, no written language, and no decipherable history. Deep in the fertile plains of Eastern Europe, stretching across modern-day Ukraine, Romania, and Moldova, a spectacular culture emerged around 5,500 BC. The Cucutini Tripolia culture. Long before the first pharaoh ruled Egypt, these people built megasites of staggering proportions. Their cities were meticulously planned. Thousands of two-story houses were arranged in massive, concentric circles, stretching for miles across the landscape. Some of these settlements housed up to 15,000 people, making them the largest human gatherings on the planet at the time. They crafted exquisite, swirling pottery. They engaged in massive communal farming. But their legacy is not defined by how they lived. It is defined by how they destroyed. Every 60 to 80 years, for reasons we still cannot comprehend, the Cucutini Tripolia people did something unimaginable. They packed their beautiful homes with wood and combustible material and set fire to everything they had built. The blazes were so intense that the clay walls literally vitrified, turning into glass under the extreme heat. Once the city was reduced to a smoldering landscape of ash and hardened clay, they simply rebuilt, right on top of the ruins. Was it a massive ritual of renewal, an offering to the gods of fire and earth? Or was it a drastic, violent way to cleanse the settlement of disease and decay? Because they possessed no writing, the true motive behind this cycle of creation and annihilation was lost in the flames. Thousands of miles to the south, in the blistering heat and marshlands of Mesopotamia, another strange culture was taking root. This was the Ubaid period, the forgotten precursor to the mighty Sumerians. Between 6,500 and 3,800 BC, the Ubaid people tamed the treacherous waters of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. They dug massive irrigation canals, transforming a hostile, muddy wasteland into the cradle of civilization. They founded Eridu, a place the ancient myths describe as the very first city on Earth, the place where kingship was handed down from heaven. But the Ubaid left behind something far more unsettling than irrigation trenches. In the ancient cemeteries of Ur and Eridu, archaeologists have unearthed dozens of strange, enigmatic figurines buried alongside the dead. They are humanoid figures, but they do not have human faces. They have elongated reptilian skulls, slit-like eyes, wide, flattened snouts. They are the lizard-headed figures of the Ubaid. Some of these statues depict female figures holding and nursing infants, infants that also bear the distinct, chilling features of a reptile. Who were these serpent-faced entities? Were they depictions of forgotten gods, ritual masks worn by early shamans, or physical representations of a dark prehistoric mythology that predates the invention of the written word. The Ubaid period represents the absolute precipice, the final moments of the prehistoric world. Within a few centuries of the Ubaid's decline, the people of this valley would invent the wheel, they would master the smelting of bronze, and most importantly, they would press the end of a reed stylus into a wet tablet of clay. Writing was born. The era of deep, silent history came to an end, and the age of recorded civilization finally began.
While the proto-cities of Eastern Europe burned, and the serpent-faced figures of the Ubaid were laid to rest, other vast, silent worlds were thriving. The story of human civilization is not confined to the Middle East. It is a global awakening. Deep in the shadow of the Bolan Pass, in the Balochistan region of modern-day Pakistan, a sprawling settlement took root around 7000 BC. Mehergar. Thousands of years before the great grid-like cities of the Indus Valley civilization were built, the people of Mehergar were mastering the harsh landscape. They built rectangular mud brick houses, tamed wild sheep and cattle, and cultivated vast fields of barley. But their most astonishing achievement was not agricultural. It was medical. In the ancient graveyards of Mehergar, archaeologists made a discovery that defied everything we knew about prehistoric medicine. The skulls of multiple individuals, dating back over 9,000 years, showed unmistakable evidence of complex dental surgery. Using tiny, expertly crafted flint drill bits attached to wooden bows, the healers of Mehergar actively drilled into the living teeth of their people to treat decay. The drilling was incredibly precise. Concentric grooves left in the enamel proved these procedures were not accidents. They were intentional, successful surgeries, performed millennia before the invention of anesthesia. Some of the patients lived for years after the procedure, their jaws healing around the smoothed, drilled cavities. These were not primitive people merely surviving the elements. They were innovators, possessing a deep empirical understanding of the human body. Across the globe, on an entirely different continent, an even more elusive culture was leaving its mark. For centuries, modern historians viewed the Amazon basin as an untouched, primeval wilderness, a vast, impenetrable jungle where small tribes lived lightly on the land, leaving no permanent footprint. But they were wrong. The Amazon was not a pristine wilderness. It was a managed garden. As modern deforestation stripped away the dense canopy in regions like Acre, Brazil, satellite imagery revealed something impossible: massive geometric earthworks. Perfect circles, squares, and octagons carved deeply into the jungle floor. These are the Amazonian geoglyphs. Some of these earthworks span hundreds of feet across, featuring trenches over 10 feet deep. They are perfectly symmetrical, connected by wide, straight roads that run precisely through the rainforest for miles. They were built by a civilization that vanished long before European explorers ever reached the shores of the Americas. This unknown society did not build with stone. They built with the earth itself, and they completely engineered their environment. Beneath the jungle floor, archaeologists found vast stretches of terra preta, or Amazonian dark earth. The natural soil of the rainforest is highly acidic and notoriously poor for farming. So, thousands of years ago, the ancient inhabitants simply invented a better soil. They systematically mixed charcoal, bone, broken pottery, and compost into the dirt, transforming the barren jungle floor into incredibly rich, fertile earth.
This artificial soil covers areas so vast it could have supported millions of people. A massive, interconnected civilization of earth movers and agricultural engineers, thriving in the heart of the deepest jungle on Earth. They possessed no written language, they forged no iron, yet they transformed an entire biome, leaving behind monumental geometry hidden beneath the trees and a synthetic soil that remains fertile to this very day. From the dental surgeons of the Bolan Pass to the earth engineers of the Amazon, humanity was proving that complex civilization does not require the written word. It only requires ingenuity and the will to reshape the world.